I call this meeting of the Northeast Independent School District to order. Let the record show that a quorum of board members is present, that this meeting has been duly called, and that notice of this meeting has been posted in accordance with the Texas Open Meetings Act, Texas Government Code Chapter 551. The board will now adjourn into executive session pursuant to the following sections of the Texas Open Meetings Act. Texas Government Code Section 551.071, private consultation with the board's attorney. 551.072, discussing purchase, exchange, lease, or value of real property. 551.074, to discuss personnel or to hear complaints against personnel, and the time is 5:31. The board will now reconvene into open session, and the time is 6:27. On behalf of the trustees, I would like to welcome you to this evening's meeting of the Northeast Independent School Board. This is a business meeting of the board held in public. We appreciate your attendance and request your respectful attention. We welcome your comments during the Matters from the Floor section of the agenda. If you signed up to address a specific action agenda item, you will be called at that time. Finally, I would like to remind you that it is the mission of Northeast to challenge and encourage each student to achieve and demonstrate academic excellence, technical skills, and responsible citizenship. Item 5, Invocation and Pledge of Allegiance. A, Texel Middle School. Dr. R. You forgot your hat.
Perfect
Sorry.
way to start the evening.
I heard that right there.
Good
Sorry.
evening, Madam President. Members of the board, Dr. Micah, executive staff, and guests, good evening. My name is Charles Reininger. I'm the proud and fortunate principal of Texel Middle School, and I'm equally proud and fortunate tonight to introduce you to two of Texel's finest eighth graders, brothers Joshua and Jonathan Aiken. They are joined here this evening by their parents, Mr. Jarrett and Cynthia Aiken, and their sister Ebony. So thank you for being here. These young men are exceptional ambassadors to Tex Hill. They are very gregarious, conscientious young men who exhibit strength and character on a daily basis. They participate well and to their best ability in and out of the classroom. They compete in academic UIL and chess and charts and graphs, and they compete in all sports. Jonathan in football and track as a pole vaulter and soccer, and Joshua in football, basketball, and track as a hurdler. So we are very pleased to have them join us tonight, and Jonathan will commence the evening with the invocation, and Joshua will lead us in the pledges. Jonathan.
Everyone, please stand and bow your heads. Dear Father, may you bless us with creativity to demonstrate our knowledge, skills, and ideas. Give us strength to carry out our amazing ideas. May we continue to give respect, glory, and honor to you in everything we do and say daily. Guide us as we open our hearts and minds to receive new information from our excellent teachers at Texel Middle Schools and from teachers all around the world. Pray for the NEIC administration, staff, faculty, and students to continue to reach for the stars. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen. Please remain standing for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Please remain standing for the Texas flag. Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state, under God, one indivisible. You now may be seated.
Jonathan and Joshua, will you come forward, please? We have some certificates, and you get to take a picture. You are welcome to stay, but I'm sure that you have homework or something that you would like to do, so you are welcome to leave. But again, thank you so much for being here. We appreciate that. Item 6, matters from executive session. A, personnel including but not limited to administrative appointments pursuant to Government Code Section 551.074. 1, possible action regarding routine personnel including but not limited to administrative appointments. Do I have a motion to approve as discussed in executive session?
So moved.
Thank you, Mr. Hasso. Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Mrs. Williams. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, the motion carries. Item 2, introductions. Dr. Micah.
All right, thank you, Madam President. I have 4 introductions this evening. I'm going to begin with our newest member to my executive staff. Joining us this evening is Anthony Jarrett, our new Assistant Superintendent for Curriculum and Instruction. Mr. Jarrett is joining the Northeast family as the Assistant Superintendent for Curriculum and Instruction. Before joining the district, he was the Executive Director of High School Curriculum and Instruction at Northside Independent School District. Mr. Jarrett has 19 years in education, including experience as a teacher, assistant principal, and principal. He received a bachelor's degree in psychology in 1998 from Texas Tech University and earned a master's degree in educational leadership in 2004 from the University of Texas at San Antonio. Mr. Jarrett has always had a passion for leading and learning. Prior to going into the educational field, he worked as a counselor in a residential treatment center. This experience inspired him to leave counseling and go into education because he wanted to make a difference before a child lost their way in life. He believes all good leaders have a belief system that success is dependent on great people and not programs. Mr. Jarrett's leadership style is to listen, learn, and support people who have the closest impact on our students. He believes that leadership is about building capacity and leaving things better than you found them. His message is for all of us to give every child and teacher hope and efficacy so they can reach their fullest potential and work to build a coherent system around our intentions, actions, and behaviors so nothing is left to chance. Welcome to Northeast, Mr. Jarrett. So, Anthony, do you have anybody joining you here this evening?
I do. My wife and 2 daughters are here.
All right. Well, would you all come up? We're going to take a quick picture with y'all.
Not you, just that.
They're more important than I am anyway.
How we roll, man.
Yeah, like they're color coordinated.
That's right. Well, hold on. The next is Brian Kennedy. Where's Mr. Kennedy? There he is. Mr. Kennedy wants all students to be able to learn the importance of education in order to provide them an opportunity for a better, more productive, and meaningful life. He wants students to know, regardless of their experiences or decisions, it is never too late to turn their life around and experience all the joy that a fulfilling life has to offer. Mr. Kennedy entered the education profession in 2000 as a middle school teacher with the desire to change lives and serve all students in their quest to become educated, productive members of our society. Brian joined the Northeast Independent School District family in 2005. Prior to being named the principal of the Northeast Alternative Center, he was the interim principal at the Northeast Alternative Center. Brian received a bachelor's degree in marketing in 2000 from Texas State University and earned a master's degree in educational administration in 2007 from Texas A&M University, Kingsville. Brian has 19 years of experience in education. Congratulations, Mr. Kennedy. Brian, do you have anybody joining you this evening? Well, come on up. You're going to take a picture with us anyway. Thought maybe that was the Pink Panther. All right, the next introduction, Mrs. Murak. Where is Lori Murak? There she is. Mrs. Murak believes that the breadth and depth of her experiences within the Northeast Independent School District is an asset. She has 25 years in education, beginning in 1994 at MacArthur High School, where she worked as a math teacher for 5 years. She transferred to Reagan High School when it opened in 1999 to teach math. Mrs. Murak was promoted and served as a central office math instructional specialist. Prior to being named the director for the Design and Technology Academy, or DATA, she served as the assistant principal for curriculum at Roosevelt High School for over 7 years. She received a bachelor's degree in mathematics in 1994 from St. Mary's University and earned a master's degree in educational administration in 2005 from Texas A&M University College Station.
Sorry, I'm falling down on the job.
I even
apologize.
paused for you.
I know.
She looks forward to serving as she discovers even more ways to inspire tomorrow's innovators today. Congratulations, Lori. Do you have anybody here with you this evening?
I do. I have my husband and my 2 sons.
All right, well, bring them on up. We're going to grab a picture with them.
Come on down.
Congratulations. Yeah, I think that would be for 2 again.
Banished. Cool people.
I'm always this tall. I gotta lower my seat to. Oh, that was good. Congrats.
I know. Almost missed my chair. All right, and our last introduction for this evening, Tyler Shoesmith. Mr. Shoesmith was in law enforcement for several years, working with youth and young adults before entering the field of education. During that time, he had an opportunity to be a guest speaker and share his experiences with students while visiting his former criminal justice teacher's class. This was a life-changing event, and immediately Mr. Shoesmith decided the opportunity to work with young minds and help them make informed decisions was too good to pass up. In 2002, Mr. Shoesmith's former teacher retired, and he had the opportunity to replace him at Madison High School. As a criminal justice teacher, Mr. Shoesmith was able to provide guidance to students who needed a caring adult in their life. Prior to being named the Senior Director of the Student Leadership and Wellbeing Department, he served as the Interim Senior Director of the Student Leadership and Wellbeing Department. Mr. Shoesmith has a total of 19 years in education. He received a bachelor's degree in criminal justice in 1999 from the University of Texas at San Antonio and earned a master's degree in management of technical education in 2009 from Texas State University. Mr. Shoesmith looks forward to serving students and families in need and supporting innovative learning opportunities that are accessible to all students. Congratulations, Tyler. Looks like you brought some folks with you, Tyler. All right, well, come on up, Tyler. We're going to grab a quick picture.
Oh,
He's a dance dad.
dance dad. And look, they're wearing pink.
That concludes our introductions for this evening.
Okay, thank you. Item B, possible action on the purchase, exchange, lease, or value of real property pursuant to Government Code Section 551.072, no action. C, possible action regarding consultation with board's attorney pursuant to Government Code Section 551.071, 1, pending and/or possible litigation, no action. Item 7, recognitions. A, TAP-HERD K-12 Health Teacher of the Year Award. Dr. Newman.
Thank you, President Grona, members of the board, Dr. Micah, executive staff, and guests. I'd like to ask Rachel Naylor to approach the podium to address this item.
Good evening, Madam President, Dr. Micah, members of the board, and executive staff, and guests. It is a great honor that I bring forth the following recognition that involves both NEISD and TAPERD. TAPERD,
Sorry.
it's okay, everybody messes up, stands for Texas, as I try to say this, Texas Association for Health, Physical Education, Recreation, and Dance. But it's better known as TAPERD because it's much easier to say. It was founded in 1923 and composed of over 4,500 professionals serving both kindergarten through college in 4 different disciplines: health, physical education, recreation, and dance. NEISD, physical education and health, and adaptive PE staff have been and continue to be heavily involved in TAPERD, from presenting at conferences, conventions, workshops, as well as holding several officer positions. Currently, NEISD holds 10 elected officer positions and 9 committee positions in the organization. This level of involvement also leads to great recognitions and awards, which brings us here tonight. TAPERD recognizes outstanding teaching and professional involvement by selecting and honoring teachers and/or professionals of the year in health, physical education, recreation, and dance. Susie Bleacher, health teacher at Tejada Middle School, was selected as the 2019 TAPERD K-12 Health Teacher of the Year. Joining her this evening is her husband, George, her daughter, Kayla, and her parents, Mr. and Mrs. Peel, as well as her current principal, Ms. Reyes. Even though NEISD is blessed with amazing health teachers, Susie Bleacher is one that stands out in the crowd, believe it or not. She is the epitome of what we hope for in a 6th grade teacher. She is enthusiastic, passionate, and an incredible relationship builder for our 6th grade students just trying to make a connection with an adult on a campus. Melissa Munsell, instructional specialist for physical education and health, has this to say about Susie. She teaches all of our 6th grade health classes at Tejada Middle School, so any student that comes through Tejada's doors gets a dose of Susie's influence at a young age. She is passionate about what she teaches to our young students, and not only does she talk the talk, but she walks the walk when it comes to health and wellness. But Susie's influence doesn't stop there. Her past principal, David Crow, now current principal at Lee High School, states this: Susie is one of the most reliable educators with which I have had the pleasure to work. She is always willing to help the campus in any way possible. As a new principal to the campus last year, I quickly learned that Susie was a great person to bounce ideas off of, and I could see how others thought highly of her through her interactions I observed on a daily basis. Please join me in recognizing Susie Bleacher for her achievement as the 2019 TAPERD K-12 Health Teacher of the Year.
Item 8, presentations. A, 2019 Bear County Do the Right Challenge, Do the Right Thing Challenge. Mr. Jimenez.
Thank you, President Grona, members of the board, Dr. Micah, executive staff, and guests. At this time, I'd like to invite John Bajuskel, Principal, Garner Middle School, to the podium to address this agenda item.
Good evening, Madam President, members of the board, Dr. Micah, and executive staff. Each year, 6th through 8th grade students are invited to participate in a writing initiative sponsored by the San Antonio Council on Alcohol and Drug Abuse called Do the Right Thing Challenge. In 2019, Bexar County Judge Tony Artiega and her prestigious selection committee evaluated 3,000 entries contributed by San Antonio students. This evening, I would like to acknowledge the accomplishments of current 8th grade student Emma Zepeda and freshman Gabriel Orgas, who is a student at MacArthur High School. Last year, Emma and Gabriel enthusiastically participated in this Do the Right Thing challenge with their English teachers, Kathy Ephron and Jackie Danya. Both students' essays were acknowledged with the highest honor of Ambassador Boy and Girl, and both students received an all-expense paid trip to Washington, D.C. this past summer to represent San Antonio and the national campaign to stop violence. This is the third year in a row that students from Garner have won this writing competition, and I'm very proud of all of them. Emma is accompanied this evening by her parents, Heather and Anthony Moreno, and Gabriel is accompanied tonight by her mother, Candy Orgas. His mother, I'm sorry. MacArthur High School Principal Pete Martinez is also attending tonight to honor his students' accomplishment. At this time, I would like to invite Emma and Gabriel to the podium to share some highlights from their trip.
Hi, I'm Gabriel Orgas.
And I'm Emma Zepeda.
So basically, we are 2019's ambassadors for the Do the Right Thing Challenge program, and when we got there, they gave us t-shirts, and on these t-shirts they had our quotes, and mine quote was, "It's the little things we need to mention, the whispers, the frowns, the angry transgressions."
And my quote, which was also on the t-shirt, was, "I ask you here today to help me end violence and stand up for those who can't stand up for themselves." The Kuwait Center. The dinner at the Embassy of Kuwait was exotic and amazing. We learned about the Kuwaiti people, the reason for the program, and had incredible food.
The Capitol. While in D.C., we visited the U.S. Capitol, Library of Congress, and the Embassy of Kuwait, and many more historical sites. We learned about the history of both the Do the Right Thing program and our nation's capital, Washington, D.C.
The Capitol Tour. During the Do the Right Thing visit, our tour guide told us that the people that work in the Capitol like to say that there are no middle school kids anywhere else in the United States because they are all here visiting the Capitol.
Congress. The U.S. Capitol tour was unlike anything we could have imagined. We met Joaquin Castro and Lloyd Doggett and a few other congressmen. It was amazing to us to think that they took the time out of their busy schedules to congratulate us and remind us that our voices matter.
The Friends. The program gave us the opportunity of travel, education, and friendship. We met so many great parents and students from all over the country, people we never would have met otherwise.
Judge Tony Artiega. Without Judge Tony's support and care, I don't think any of this would have happened. She is an amazing woman, tour guide, role model, and judge.
The Gala. The final ceremony was incredible. The food was amazing, everyone was dressed elegantly, and the performances and speeches were so entertaining and heartwarming.
We would like to give a special thanks. We feel so fortunate to attend NEISD schools, which afford us the opportunities to participate in these meaningful competitions. We just wanted to say thank you to all the people in this room, our teachers, and most importantly, our parents. Without y'all, we would not be here.
That is very true.
Thank you.
Would y'all come forward for a picture, please? That was amazing, and congratulations to Garner for three-peat, right? That's awesome. But yeah, congratulations to you. Yes.
Yeah, I want to put it down as soon as you take the picture. It looks ugly when it's back there.
And you're welcome to stay, but you're also welcome to leave. Item B, social emotional learning. Dr. Newman.
Thank you, President Grona, members of the board, Dr. Micah, executive staff, and guests. I'm going to give a brief introduction to this presentation. As you know, one of Dr. Micah's 3 priorities in social emotional learning, or SEL, for all NEISD students and staff, it is one of the 3. We would be here quite a while if we were to try to present to you everything this district has done in the area of SEL. So this evening, we would like to present to you a brief summary of the past, the present, and the future of SEL in Northeast. This interactive presentation was designed to allow you, the board, the opportunity to continue to explore what we have to offer. Please know that we will answer any questions you might have after you've had time to review the PowerPoint. We're very proud of the fact that there were numerous individuals in various departments and divisions who contributed to the work this evening. So Tyler Shoesmith is at the podium, as is Ms. Borman, and there may be several interjections throughout this PowerPoint. So, Mr. Shoesmith.
Good evening, Madam Board President, board members, Dr. Micah, executive staff, and guests. Before I begin, I'd like to recognize all the staff members by department who have played an important role in the development and implementation of social emotional learning in the district. Curriculum and instruction, special education, PE and health, learning support services to include guidance services, early childhood, student leadership and well-being, and human resources. Also, I'd like to thank in media, Jason Gittell and Jimmy O'Halligan for their tireless filming, and Michelle Hayter for instructional technology who designed our presentation to represent social emotional learning. Social emotional learning is not new to Northeast ISD. However, with that being said, it has not always been called that. STAAR counselors began their work in the district in 1988 and received national recognition in 1992. These positions were created as a result of student need throughout the district. They've now expanded to every middle and high school. In 2011, we began looking for disenfranchised students. Students were not quite finding their attachment to school and designing programs to engage them in their interests. The next notable event occurred during the transformation project and development of strategic goals, where the community asked us to define what compassion meant and what it looked like in and out of a school setting. That began the district-wide collaboration that includes all the departments I mentioned earlier. Lastly, we have the foundations, which is the title for the overall behavior program that we are using as the main vehicle to train all campuses on positive behavior intervention and support, SEL, trauma-sensitive, and educator wellness. These trainings and support take place 4 times a year, with many higher-level trainings on campuses throughout the year. This brings us to our foundational framework of SEL in Northeast. Each column represents the basis for all social-emotional learning competencies in the district and provides all emerging projects a starting point for creating safe environments and a sense of belonging where all learning can occur. We also have the 3 signature practices that are the template for creating work in classroom environments that include welcoming inclusion activities, engaging practices, and optimistic closures. Now that you've had an opportunity to look at the work that has been done in the past, let's take a look at SEL in motion.
What can I do when I go home and everybody's tired and we have so many things to do? What can I do to make my world a better world? How can carrying my own weather and making those decisions help me make my world a better world? If you'll keep your hands on in just a moment, we're going to share, but right now I want you to just think about it. Because when we go home and we have so many things to do, right? As you're thinking, we're going to sing our song, What a Wonderful World, because this song is the one that reminds us that, hey, guess what? We can do little things to make our world a better world, right?
Relax your body. This breath is called the triangle breath, and it's going to be over here in our cool down corner. I want you to practice it with us right now. We might use this before a test. If we're feeling anxious, we might use this at a time when we feel stressed out or we feel rushed.
And go ahead and close your eyes. And I'd like for you to focus just on your breathing.
Say it loud, say it proud on three. Tigers at three. 1, 2, 3, Tigers!
The next portion of this presentation will allow you to take a deeper dive into the department areas that have brought SEL in and embrace the practices. I encourage you to take your time looking through this interactive platform. It will likely surprise you how well it has been implemented in many different facets of Northeast. As you'll see, SEL is not a program, but a way we care for each other and our students. You'll recognize the support rings from Dr. Micah's convocation and leadership messages. We felt this is the best way to represent the overlapping areas of influence of SEL. First, we're going to navigate to structures, and then to professional development. Here we see Ann McKay Bryson from Castle Consulting, who are the originators of the SEL movement into formalized practice and the introduction of the 3 signature practices. Those, again, are welcoming inclusion activities, engaging practices, and optimistic closures. On the right, we have library and instructional technology interacting during an SEL training where they're planning their implementation. Next, we have the Handle with Care program that we began as a pilot program last year, has now expanded citywide, with Northeast ISD taking the lead. When an officer encounters a child at a crime scene, a confidential notice is sent to that school staff to ensure the supports are there to handle that child with care. And now we have the framework we previously discussed and a link to find more information on the one sheet that you guys have in your packet as well. Navigate back. Very good. Next, we're going to go to campus instruction. Health and PE. Here we have health and PE, which blends the tenets of SEL with motion and activity. Rachel has been a key member since the beginning, and the activities are evidence of the integration. Student leadership and well-being. This is our department, student leadership and well-being, and as you can see, there's a link that will allow you to explore each of these support structures that are listed on the right. Here's SEL evidence in working in the community through extracurricular organizations and service learning. SEL is embedded in all components of instruction to include core and early childhood. Now on to direct support. The STAND counselors have been key members of the mental health supports for both adults and children on every secondary campus. The SEL Behavior Coaches, which we'll navigate to here now, they're providing the foundations training, direct teacher support for students who are in need of extra interventions in SEL, trauma-sensitive, adverse childhood experiences, and educator wellness training. We currently have 8 SEL Behavior Coaches that are working at every campus level. In closing, we've given you a glimpse of the SEL practice in Northeast. This movement is continuously encouraging innovation throughout the campuses and departments. There's no right way, and it will look different based on the needs of the children and staff. Ending with an optimistic closure, we look forward to continuing the practice of teaching SEL skills and allowing time to practice them. We grow the whole child and do not neglect the non-academic parts of self that are necessary for individuals and communities to thrive.
And I would like to follow up with what Mr. Shoesmith said. I want to reiterate that Dr. Mike is committed to providing for the social emotional needs of students and staff. Some work that continues in that regard is the UTSA cohort of aspiring administrators. When Dr. Mike and I met with the UTSA officials last year to discuss their year-long intern project, he asked that they focus on the SEL component. They broke into groups and they've explored some of the following: SEL with communities in schools, the Leader in Me and how SEL fits into Leader in Me, the effectiveness of Seahawk time as an SEL strategy in middle school out at Nimitz, Title I elementary teacher understanding of social emotional learning programs, and the perspective of high school teachers on SEL needs, and they're working on this currently. We also have a cohort of 5 individuals who are working on their superintendent certification. These individuals are Mr. Rudy Jimenez, Ms. Colleen Borman, Mr. Tyler Shoesmith, and out in our audience, we've got Glenn Ford, the principal of El Dorado Elementary, and Reve Schaefer, who is she is part of this group working with NEISD, although she is at Region 20 Service Center. So we met with these 5 last month to discuss their required, it's called a capstone project. Again, Dr. Micah asked that they focus on providing our staff with a guide to district resources that will help any employee in need of assistance. So we're going to continue working closely with the group this year. So thank you very much. Are there any questions at this time that we can answer for you?
I just have a comment. I want to thank you. That video, just, I don't know if I can find the words without crying. I'm very proud of the work that we have done as a district. And Dr. Micah, you've reiterated with your message at convocation, and it's not just our students, but our teachers. And I have known about SEL, but not to the extent until Otika, and I think you were with her, Colleen, came to Churchill and spoke at
actually at the CIC, and then spoke at a PTA meeting. And I am forever your biggest cheerleader. I'm so very proud. We visited the schools when we were giving the grants from NEEF, and you see it on the walls. The teachers are doing the lessons, the activities, the artwork. It is in our schools, and I have never been so proud. And thank you so much for all the work you do.
Ms. Williams? Go ahead.
Could you talk a little bit, I know there was a lot in the information, but the Handle with Care program?
Yes, ma'am. So that's a partnership that we have with an ever-growing group of agencies here in town. It started off with SAPD being the pilot organization. They are acting as the umbrella, basically organizing the other law enforcement agencies. So Northeast ISD, SAISD, and East Central ISD were asked to be a partner in this pilot, and that happened last semester. We had 73 referrals come from SAPD officers that were at crime scenes identifying children who had been traumatized, and those referrals were sent directly to the point of contact at each district. And for our district, that was me. And so then when I received that notification, I sent it directly down to the campus principal and their 2 identified points of contact. That way the teachers and the counselors who have already been trained on how to deal with kids in traumatic experiences, they know how to handle the kiddos and escalate interventions as needed. So they would monitor and intervene when needed and escalate and bring parents in when needed as well.
And the pilot was in the Roosevelt cluster.
Oh,
So
okay.
The whole point to that was, and I think the power that it brought was, rather than when that child experienced a traumatic event, whether they saw it or was or part of it, they would come to the campus and oftentimes it would manifest in a disciplinary outburst. Because of this program, rather than us lead from discipline first, we led with empathy. And I spoke to several principals with Tyler, and they spoke about the impact that it made, because just knowing that that child had experienced something so many times we never knew, they were able to put the support systems in place to really help the child, which helped their attendance, helped them stay in school, helped their academics. There are so many benefits to it. So that pilot, as he brushed over it, but it went citywide, and the performance and planning people are the ones that actually built the mechanism in order to use it citywide. So it's something that we've invested a lot of time and energy in.
Sounds like a good program, because a lot of times kids can be stigmatized if others don't actually know, what the situation is or what was going on, and they could suffer from PTSD, even at a very, very young age. So I commend this program.
Excellent. Thank you.
So Tyler explained that this is an interactive presentation, so you're going to get it, and you're going to actually be able to click on those buttons and explore this much deeper. It is truly a very robust approach that we've been doing, and it's just becoming amplified as the work continues. So, as you get it, poke around in it, look around. If you have questions, they're very much ready to answer any questions that you have. But I want to thank them for the work that they're doing. They really have brought it to the forefront.
If I could just interject a couple of other things. I want to also thank the Mr. Vidal's Department, the Employee Health and Wellness. They've been ongoing for years and years and years, and we'll continue to work closely with them. Also, we do have a group of individuals out in the audience who will also be working on this with us this year. And I know, Dr. Mike, I believe I gave you the bios for this group. I don't know if this is a good time. No?
They're not in here, Dr. Newman.
Okay, well, we have our aspiring.
But she mentioned them, so if you want to introduce them, Donna, and just have them stand up, and because these are the people that are working on their superintendency. That when we met with them, Dr. Newman and I met, and I asked them, "Here's a project I would like for you to take on, because nowhere in the state is anyone doing this."
Well, this is the Aspiring Principal Academy. This is the job versus the title. Do you have it? Would you like to do it? Okay. Well, we've had a lot of conversation about job versus title.
I have it. No, I'm just kidding.
I don't have it either.
Do you have it, David?
David, Terry would like to know if you have it.
have the packet.
David says he doesn't have it.
I have it, and I can go ahead and tell you about it.
Mr.
Yes.
Jarrett, welcome to your first board meeting.
We often go astray. But
Dr. Mike and I have had a lot of conversation about the job versus the title of the principal,
Yes.
and really how can you truly be prepared. So we decided that this year we would start what's called an Aspiring Principals Academy. And with that, we had over 40 applicants, and they went through a very strenuous, we interviewed 12, and it was a very, very strenuous interview process to include in-basket, role play, and just your regular interview. And so it was me, Mr. Jimenez, Mr. Reasons, Ms. Jensen, Dr. Oxley, Dr. Brummett, and Principals Eric Warnley and Kim Orihuela. And we chose 5 individuals, and they are out in the audience, and they will be helping with the SEL project as well. And if you have a minute, I'd like to
Yes.
introduce them.
Please
We have
do.
Renette Powell, currently the assistant principal at Hidden Forest. She was a teacher at Northside and has been assistant principal in Northeast for 4 years. Thank you, Renette. Jason Adetta. Jason, please stand. He was an assistant principal in Edgewood before joining Northeast in January of 2017, and when he was hired as assistant principal at Madison High School. Thank you, Jason. Liz Washington. Liz was a teacher at Ed White Middle School prior to becoming an assistant principal there in 2015. She's currently an assistant principal at Wood Middle School. Alex Escamilla. Alex has almost 6 years of experience as assistant principal in Northeast. He's currently an assistant principal at Reagan High School. And Sharon Bennett. Sharon, would you please stand up? Sharon's been with Northeast since 2006 when she taught at Kruger Middle School. She's starting her 6 years as an assistant principal in Northeast and is currently at Madison High School. There's a lot of professional development they will be receiving. They also meet regularly with Mr. Jimenez and myself, and we will be focusing on the social emotional component. So thank you.
Awesome, thank you.
Looks like a fine group you have there.
Yes. Ms. Shelton, I did see the little hand signal back there. Thank you all so much. I mean, this was an amazing presentation. I really appreciate it. And like Ms. Winkley said, just walking at the campuses and seeing everything that they're doing, it just really, you hear that it's a focus, but we're actually seeing it in action, and it's great to be able to see that. So thank you to everyone who's making this happen. Item C, bilingual. So the aspiring principals think they can leave?
Great question, Mrs. Groner.
They have homework.
All right, Alex.
Do any of y'all have my stuff?
Yeah, you take care of Miss Shelton for me, okay?
They have papers to attend to.
Okay, I'll finish calling the next item. I apologize. I got a little distracted. Bilingual ESL program evaluation. Dr. Newman.
Thank you, President Grona. Members of the board, Dr. Micah, executive staff, and guests, I'd like to ask Ms. Alicia Alvarez Calderon, Senior Director of Bilingual ESP Programs, to address this agenda item.
Good evening, Madam President, board members, Dr. Micah, executive staff, and guests. I'm here today to do a presentation on our program evaluation, which is required by the state every year, and also to do the presentation before November 1st. So we thought about this evaluation and starting with the number, the growth of English learners in our community, in our district. As you can see, we have numbers there from 2010 to 2000, actually it's from 2018 to 2019 last year. So this is PIMS data. So we collected this data every year in October when we have to do our submission for PIMS. So the last one that you see there, which is, adds up to 13.1% of our district enrollment, is from October of 2018. And this is just to show you how our population is, growing and is continuing to grow. even when our enrollment has gone down, our numbers continue to grow for English learners in the district. So I'm going to spend a little time explaining all the terms in there and also the numbers that you see in the pie chart. So in the green area, we have the light green area, we have that ESL. ESL is English learners who are in an English as a second language program. The very small piece right there of the pie is denials. So the parents of these students, they're English learners, but they have chosen to deny bilingual or ESL services. So really, we don't service them at all. They're in the regular mainstream. The next area that says M1 and 4, these are students who are being monitored. These students have been reclassified because they met exit criteria or reclassification criteria according to the state. So the state tells us these are the things that you have to meet in order to be reclassified as a non-L. But we have to monitor them for 4 years and making sure that they do okay in the mainstream and they do well in our regular classrooms as opposed to, receiving specific services. The next area, the light blue area, is our non-Ls in dual language programs or English proficient students in our dual language program. So these are students that have chosen to go into the dual language program. Their parents put them in there alongside with our Ls to learn Spanish. And the red part is our English learners in dual language programs. So I just, put that in there so that you get an idea of how our kids are distributed. So right now, this is last year, I'm sorry, this is as of October of last year, the bilingual department was servicing around 11,327 students. So for the presentation, we focused on 2 program goals. The first one is to perform above the state and the region in all subject areas, and then to close the achievement gap between English learners and general education students in any ISD. These goals are aligned to our DIP. When we look at our goals in our DIP, this is basically what we always talking about. And the data that you're going to see, it's coming from the Texas Assessment Management System, TAMS, as opposed to the TAPAR, because the Texas Academic Reports, or TAPAR, are not out until November or December for the previous year. So that's why we have to have, something that we can do before November 1st so that we can complete the evaluation program. The first thing we're going to look at is the Language Proficiency Assessment System, or TELPAS. The TELPAS is a English proficiency test that assesses students in 4 domains: in listening, speaking, reading, and writing. The state requires that all English learners move 1 level every year. So they go from beginning to intermediate, from intermediate to advanced, and if they're advanced, to advanced high. And if they maintain advanced high but have not been able to be reclassified or exited, they need to stay at advanced high. So we cannot see them go back. The TELPAS changed a couple of years ago. And so when we look at the data, you're going to see only 2 years worth of data because it's comparing the same test to the same test as opposed to the old test, which was 3 years ago. And it is on a scale from 1 to 4. So they put all those domains together, listening, speaking, reading, and writing, and they get a composite score. And this is what we see here. The white line is Northeast, ISD. So we pretty much were stable from 1 year to another one. We saw that the state, which is the orange line, went down a little bit, and the region 20, which is the yellow line, went up. We have found that the areas that we need to reinforce and help our students with is the listening and speaking. That was the main change in the TELPAS from 3 years ago, was that the listening and speaking is now online. So it's a test that they have to do online now, as opposed to just having teachers as raters. We have provided input to the state in terms of the listening and speaking and the concern with, just testing online and everything. But we have been very proactive in terms of really looking at improving our scores for our students and those two levels, to those domains. And not only my department is working on different activities that are pretty much aligned to the TELPAS items, but also teachers are starting to work with us as well on those items so that kids can get a lot of practice, because we think it's lack of practice as well. You know, it's something that we don't have as much as STAAR. For example, for STAAR, we do have practice tests out there and items. For TELPAS, we don't. We don't have as much as everybody else. So that's something that we're going to be working on and we'll continue to work on this year. Now we're going to go into performance and STAAR at the elementary level. So again, the white line is Northeast ISD, and you can see the difference there between us and the state and the region. And these are English learners in dual language programs, okay? And these are all tests at the elementary level. So we are in a uptrend. We're going in the right direction. Of course, we still have a lot to do, but we're going in the right direction. So dual language programs, as I'm not sure if you know or not, but in the instruction in the dual language programs is in Spanish and in English. And we do have a 90-10 model here in Northeast for all of our schools. When we look at our ESL programs, they're not as high as dual language, but we still have we're still higher than the state and the region. In ESL programs, students receive instruction only in English with accommodations, linguistic accommodations for their understanding and the comprehension of the content.
And Ms. Alvarez-Calderon, can you just go into a little bit about what the 90-10 is?
Yeah, sure. So the 90-10 model in dual language defines the beginning of their schooling, basically. So at the kinder level, pre-K, kinder, they start 90% of their instruction in Spanish and 10% of their instruction in English. And as they move up, they go 80-20, 70-30, until they reach 50-50 by 4th grade at the elementary level, and 5th grade, 50-50. So 50% of their day is in Spanish and 50% of their day is in English. Once they move to middle school, it drops, the Spanish time of the day drops to, like, I believe it's 25%. It's only 2 courses out of the 8 courses that they take during the day. So now the next slide is going to show you different student groups within bilingual education. And I'm going to take a little time also to explain each one of these, just to make sure you understand what each one of those bars represent. The very first one, blue bar, the dark blue, is dual language students. So these are English learners in dual language programs. The next one, which is the light blue, is English learners in ESL programs. Again, these are the kids that are receiving instruction only in English. The next one is the red one, is monitored students. So these are students who have been reclassified or exited out of being English learners. And we don't say exited out of the program because a lot of them who were in dual programs continue to remain in dual programs. So they choose to stay until 8th grade or maybe into the high school that we have MacArthur now. The yellow students, the yellow bar is the denials, students who denied services. The green bar is general education. So these are all the other kids that we have in the district who are not in the dual language program or an ESL program. And if you look at 2019, we have an extra bar there. And the reason why we have that in there is because this is the first year, this past year was the first year that we had data on that. We have been coding our kids for a while now, but the state hasn't been releasing that data. And those are our English speakers or English proficient students who chose to be in the dual language program. Okay? So when we look at reading, we look at 3 years ago that we had a gap of 10 points, basically. The next year we had a gap of 8 points. And then a gap of 5 points. So we are trending, you know, in the right way. We're going up. We still have a gap to fill, but really, when you start looking at English learners and the general, compared to the general population, you also have to keep in mind that most of our English learners, not all of them, but most of our English learners are in our title campuses. And so, for us to be only 5 points away from the general population, I think it's really big, it's huge. The other thing that's so important to see is those red bars. We're talking about kids who have been exited from the programs, and they are reclassified by an LPAC committee. So it's a group of members that have to come together, look at all the data, make sure that the students have met the requirements that the state asked for, and then either placed in the mainstream, or they can go back to the dual language if the parents choose to keep them in the dual language program. You can see that our teachers and our LPAC committees have been making very good decisions, because our kids are doing outstanding. When we look at numbers, and I just wanted to tell you this because I want you to compare that with the middle school. When we talk about reclassified students or monitor students, we're only talking about, in 2018, like 130 students for that 100%, and in 2019 for about 57 students. And you'll see the same, but you'll see the difference for in the middle school when I show you those bars. So the next one doesn't need much explanation because it's the same thing, but it's math. We are also, getting there in terms of where we need to be. But we're not nearly as where we want to be. So we want to be much, much closer to our general ed population. And as you can see, our denials do not do as well as our other groups, the kids that don't receive services. It's a good thing that we don't have that many denials, but we still, need to work with parents in terms of to put the kids in one of the programs, either the bilingual or the ESL program. For writing, it's really exciting what we have done. If you look at our scores, because we can really say here definitely we can close the gap. We have closed the gap for our writing scores. And again, if you look at our English proficient students as well, all the way to the right in the yellow, it's amazing, how those students are doing in all areas. Do you have a question?
Yes. Why are there denials at all? I mean, it seems to me that a parent.
Right.
I'm confused about the denials.
More than anything, there's a lot of misconception. There's a lot of thinking that they're going to be able to teach their kids. Usually, the things that we hear from parents is, I'm going to teach my child to speak Spanish at home. I don't want them learning Spanish in schools. I want them learning English. And they think that if you put them in all English classrooms, that they're going to obtain or they're going to attain English faster, which is really a myth. It's the more they are in bilingual programs and the stronger they grow their native language, the better off they're going to be later on. They're going to learn more English on the long run. But they really don't understand that. And we try to educate the community. We try to, tell the parents this is not the way to go. We have a lot of parents that deny services first and then they want to come back. And unfortunately, after 3 or 4 years, when they're in 4th and 5th, we cannot put them in a dual language program where they have been receiving instruction only in English. We couldn't put them in ESL programs, and we do that. That's one thing. Another thing that we hear a lot is, no, I don't want my child to go to another campus. I want my child to stay here at the community school, because we cluster schools. We don't have enough else to have a dual language program in every single campus.
Oh.
So that's another one. But we hear all kinds of concerns about speaking Spanish or ESL not being for their kids, or that's for other kids, and so.
So do those children then, because of that, are they struggling more?
Yes.
Are they?
Yes.
Okay. So
absolutely.
Could you also elaborate for me just a little bit between the difference between a child in a dual language versus a child in the ESL? I mean, what's different about the ESL program?
So the ESL program is completely in English. It's an all English program. So what teachers do is they're specifically trained to do what we call linguistic accommodations for the kids to actually understand the content and also continue to grow in their English proficiency. A dual language program is geared towards the minority students, so towards our Spanish speaking students, right? And their instruction at the beginning in kindergarten is 90% in Spanish. So you start building not only that native language, but also the content to make sure they don't fall behind. And little by little, you start adding the English. So I think what a lot of people don't understand and what we need to understand is that learning a second language is the hardest cognitive task there is. So nobody learns a language in 2 years. You know, you can learn the social language in 2 years, but not the academic language that's needed in our classrooms. And so that's the big misconception, I think, when we hear kids in the playground speaking English and very fluent and they come from Spanish homes, we're like, oh, you know, they speak English, they can do well in the classroom. It's like, not necessarily. If they don't have the academic language, the more in-depth thinking, that's when they're lacking. And that's what bilingual programs do, especially dual language programs.
Now, is the goal in the dual language still to have classes be 50-50 as much as you can of English, of native English speakers?
For the two-way. We also have one-way classes, which are all native Spanish speakers.
Gotcha.
But the framework in terms of instructional minutes is the same. Okay?
And then Ms. Salvadez Calderon,
Yes.
our dual language are Spanish only. In our ESL, we have many other languages.
Yes, we have like
Other than
58
Spanish.
plus languages.
That was, and I guess that was something else I thought of, and I'm glad you brought that up. So in dual language, we're primarily addressing the need for our Spanish speakers.
Correct.
But ESL, it could be, you know, like my native language is French or German or whatever.
Mhm.
Gotcha.
Exactly. Yes. Okay. All right. So now let's move on a little bit into middle school. So when we look at the line graphs, we continue to grow again, and we basically this past year we made it right there with the state, and these are English learners in dual language programs, and these are all tests as well. And the next one is ESL programs. Okay. Dual language programs at the middle school, they only take 2 courses in Spanish. The rest of the courses are in English. Now, when I was talking to you about the difference in those red bars and the number of kids, in 2018, there was about 130 students that were monitored, and in 2019, and this is at the elementary level, about 57, I believe. In here, in 2019, our monitor students are more than 500 kids, but they are still performing at that level, you know, very, very high level compared to everybody else. And in 2018, I had 491 students in there. Now, we definitely need to continue to work, right, in our reading. In 6th grade is probably the lowest grade. I don't have the numbers exactly, but that's the one that we really need to work on in terms of reading. Our non-ELs, or English proficient students, that green bar at the very end on 2019, continue to do really well. And you see in there also that the ESL, you notice they don't do as well as our dual language students, although all of their instruction is in English. I did not include denials in here because our numbers were much, much smaller, and that's why I didn't include them in here. In math, we're doing a little bit better than in reading. Again, our monitor students doing amazingly well. And in writing, we're also lacking, but we are closing the gap. So we have a lot of work to do still, you know, but we really think that we are trending the right way and that we're getting there. Now, when we talk about high school, and these are the last, this is the last data that I have, what I included in there was English learners, but also monitored students. The reason why I included monitored students in the dual language programs is because you cannot be in a dual language program if you're not an L, or if you didn't start as an English proficient student, or a monitor student, I'm sorry, if you were not in a dual language program before. So if you are a monitored student and you choose to go into a dual language, you have had to be in the dual language program. And the reason why I did that in here is because we had the numbers were very small. and here, because at the high school level, we only have one high school, so a lot of the kids opt to go to their home campus, right, their home high school, as opposed to going to MacArthur. And these are dual language programs, students in dual language programs, from all tests. And the next one is from ESL program. So you can see the difference between, in terms of performance between the ESL and the dual language. In dual language, we were at 92%, and ESL were at 56%. In algebra, our students have done amazingly well. And again, the reason why I don't have those bars in 2017 is because we didn't have that information there. So our students at MacArthur are doing very, very well. And the red bars in this case is the general ed. In biology, and this is interesting to see because biology is a course they take in Spanish, but they test in English because there's no Spanish test in biology EOC. So they do the course in Spanish, but they test in English. And then English 1, this is the headache for everybody, including ELs. English 1 is a hard test. It's a test that they're always, that 40 in there was very few students in that category. And I think that's why there was a big difference. We don't know why the state did not pick up all of the kids that we had, because we had about 40 students, but that 40% represents only 10 of the students. We don't understand what happened there in the coding. But since this is kind of like new for the state, they're just releasing this, this information. But we're doing much better now. Of course, when we have more kids in there, it helps. So our plan and next steps is to continue to collaborate with all content areas to provide professional development for bilingual and ESL teachers. Our department specialists will continue to provide coaching for teachers. We continue to work with campus administration and central office leadership to build capacity within the district to run effective English language learners programs. And we will continue to participate in professional learning communities, or PLCs, in schools to provide support for classroom teachers. Do you have any questions?
It was an awesome presentation. Thank you
Thank
very
you.
much.
Thank you.
Does anybody have any questions?
I have a quick question. Do we have a preliminary percentage of students enrolled 2019, 2020 for the program?
Not yet. Our PIM submission is not until the end of October.
Right.
And so that's when we start really solidifying our numbers.
Okay. Is there a preliminary number? I'm just curious what the percentage, if we know at this point, if not.
If we don't have that information, we can certainly provide it to you.
I will tell you, the problem with giving a preliminary number is you get numbers like that out there, and it can sometimes lead to some confusion, David. So they kind of keep that, and as we kind of work on it, it's just like performance and planning is already working on projections for next year.
Yeah.
But we keep those kind of tight until some things work through. So I just don't want to give you a number that
that's
could or
fine.
could not
That's
give some
fine.
hope to someone.
So we have the one high school, then how many middle schools and how many elementaries have the dual
We
language?
have 16 elementary schools plus the pre-K academy. We have 5 middle schools and 1 high school.
Okay.
Well, I'd just like to get my money back from Rosetta Stone and enroll in your program.
I'm sorry, I get tickled and then I just cannot.
Mr. Jarrett, this is different, isn't it?
I'm not sure you can leave now, Mr. Jarrett. Okay, I'm sorry. I'm trying to compose
That's fine.
myself. Any other questions? Terry, does David have any more questions? No. All right.
David's good, thank you.
Thank you. All right. Thank you very much.
Thank
I
you.
appreciate it.
Yes.
Item D, refunding bond results. Mr. Villarreal.
Yes, Madam President, members of the board, Dr. Mike, executive staff, and guests. I call Brian Moy to the podium for this presentation. We're just going to talk about summarizing the 2 bond sales that we have done. Brian?
Good evening, Madam President, members of the board, Dr. Micah, executive staff, and guests. This is, unfortunately, you need to start putting me first because it's the boring, dry presentation, and follow it up with the really good ones. But we just wanted to bring you, since this is hundreds of millions of dollars, when we keep bringing you summaries of what has been going on in the debt side of our bond world.
Well, we can make it fun, you know that.
And I was just going to say, it's the subject matter that's boring, not the presenter. Just
Thank you. Okay, so a couple of things that happened. In July, we had a variable rate issue that came due that we actually went ahead and we quit having it be a short-term variable issue and fixed it out long-term. And then in October, we had come to the limit of our letter of credit with our commercial paper. We had reached 99 million outstanding on the Series A paper, so it was time to put out bonds to refund that, reset our line of credit back to 0. Well, technically back to 1 million because J.P. Morgan holds on to 1 million of the commercial paper ongoing. So the first transaction, the this doesn't look right, but I'll keep going. Okay, so there you go. The first transaction, well, both transactions, Hilltop Securities, as always, is our financial advisor. Norton Rose Fulbright is our bond counsel. For the July sale, since it was a smaller issue, we only had 2 underwriters on the job. The senior manager was Piper Jaffray and Associates because they were the senior on the VRDO issue. We have a history of just whoever owns the first VRDO, as it gets remarketed or changed out, they remain the senior manager of that issue. They were supported by Samco. The October sale, our senior manager was Baird. It's the first time we've used them as a senior, with several co-managers. We seem to say this practically every time we come up here, but we are still historically at low long-term yields. That compelled us to not go out for another 1 to 5 year bond, but to go out long-term with these bonds this time. Overall, we had 2.8 times orders of the amount of bonds available, which is good. So over several maturities, we were able to bring down the interest sum. But at the same time, more than $8 million of the 44.8 million of bonds had to be underwritten, as in Piper Jaffray had to buy them themselves. But that's their contract. That's what they get paid to do. They sell them. They tell us this is the rate it can be sold for. And if they're wrong, they buy them. That's why these major banks have billions in capital to be able to do so. Okay, in the October issue, we also went long-term on this one. And this one was a little weird. The day opened with some international economic crisis and the numbers we thought we were going to go out with. Suddenly, right before the sale period, we were raising interest rates across the board. Halfway through the sale period, everyone goes, oh, that wasn't so bad. Rates crashed. We had to go back and reset all the rates again, pretty much ending up right where we were at the day before, where we thought we were going to be. So we're actually able to bring down yields there too. Here we got 5.4 times the bonds available. Baird did have to underwrite some, which is interesting. On both of these issues, they were a few months apart, but people seem to want to buy things that mature soon or mature really late. There is not much of a market in about 12 years. So I don't know what that means with what investors are thinking. I'm either going to put my money out short or I'm going to put my money out super long. No one seems to think that putting it out 10 to 12 years is a good thing to do. When we were doing these takeouts or refundings of our commercial paper, we weren't always at our maximum. There were some times earlier on in the year in the program where we were doing amounts that were in the 80 million spot. So we actually went ahead and took out new money, just added it to the project fund of that thing on the orange on the right, 17,950,000. What that does, after doing several, this is actually our fourth time going through our commercial paper program. That brings us to, we now only have $100 million available of the 2015 bonds. We are down to the last 100 million. 400 million of the 499,950 has been out the door. And so we're coming up on the last 100 million. Now, granted, the last 100 million takes the longest to spend, because there's always the last few projects that drag out. You're spending a little here, a little there. I mean, technically speaking, we still have probably 1 million, 2 million, Shannon can probably tell me, of 2011 bonds that are still there, where we're still looking at, okay, what can we combine with a new project in 15 and spend out that money? You know, a small amount, and mainly in interest earnings, that's actually still available. But we've actually gone through 80% of our program on the 2015 bonds. And with that, I will take any questions.
The only question I had was about where are we with the close to $500 million that we authorized, and so, yeah, no, that's great.
Okay. Thank you.
Anybody else? No. Thank you very much, Brian. Item 9, board business. A, possible action regarding nomination for Bear Appraisal District Board of Directors for 2021. So we had asked to move this to this meeting. Does anybody have a nomination for who they would like to appoint to the Board of Directors?
Yeah, Madam President, I have a name I'd like to nominate.
Okay.
His name is John Fisher. He resides in the District 4.
Okay. I'm sorry. Does anybody else have any names? Okay, so.
I would be surprised.
So remind me, the way this works, we have so many votes, and typically we do so many votes for our person that we want to nominate, and then so many votes for, no, just all.
Not anymore. Now we're going to need to put all
Okay.
of our votes to our nominee.
Okay.
And in fact, last time, we actually asked Northside to send a few votes to our nominee
Okay.
to make certain. I think it's 834 is, well, that's what we have, but
We have some.
834 votes would be a certain,
Okay, nomination. or-
yeah, it would make certain that our nominee got in.
Okay.
The way it stands now is the city, the county, Northside, and Northeast, normally, their nominees make it in automatically. Northside, of course, because they have.
Right.
Right, so they're automatically, if they put enough votes towards their nominee. And then most of the other taxing authorities, their votes are spread out, but in the last several years, it's been Sherry Byram out of Southwest that
Okay.
people have supported.
Okay. All right, so we want to nominate John Fisher. Do I have a motion to do that?
So moved?
Oh, you
Is
did?
that well, I've made a nomination. Is that actually a motion, or is that?
Well.
David wants to make that motion.
I move to nominate John Fisher to the Bear Appraisal District.
Thank you. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Ms. Williams. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, the motion carries. And then we also need to adopt the attached resolution that says we've met, we are nominating John Fisher.
David, could you tell us a little bit about John, though, too?
Sure. John is a member, or he lives in single-member District 4. He has a couple of children in the district. He's in pharmaceutical sales. He's also involved in the Athletic Booster Club. But in his professional life, he's pharmaceutical sales, but he's also on the Northeast Educational Foundation Finance Committee, So he's been involved in that, and overall, he's good, involved person, good representative for the district. I thought he'd be a good person to sit on the board and represent us.
Okay.
And just for the board's information, John did reach out to our current person, Keith, who I happen to know. And they had a very long conversation. John is aware of what he's getting into. He asked some incredibly great questions of Keith about what is expected of this job, and it was a very good conversation. So I think John came away with a good sense of what he's getting into.
Okay,
So.
perfect. Did we all vote?
No, not yet.
We just had a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? The motion carries. I
Now
get
we have to-
distracted, Mr. Jarrett. I apologize for that.
No, did we vote on the, okay,
Well,
that
we-
was,
And I
that was
said
the nomination.
motion and to adopt the resolution.
Resolution,
Yeah.
right, okay.
That was all together.
Okay, just want to make sure
I
we
did
got it
all
all.
together.
Okay.
Item 10, new business for possible board action. A, resolutions. 1, possible action regarding resolution recognizing October 2019 as Principals Month. Mr. Jimenez.
Thank you, President Grona, members of the board, Dr. Micah, executive staff, and guests. This time, I'd like to invite Jane Jensen, Executive Director for School Administration, to the podium to address this agenda item.
Good evening, Madam President, board members, Dr. Micah, executive staff, and guests. It is my pleasure and honor to bring before you this evening a possible action regarding a resolution recognizing October 2019 as Principals Month. Principals Month is an opportunity to celebrate the dedication of our principals who work tirelessly to assure the best learning environments and opportunities are available for their students. We know great schools do not exist apart from great leaders, and that our principals can impact the lives of a few hundred up to a few thousand students during a school year. So in honor of these remarkable school leaders, the proposed resolution states, Principals Month, whereas principals are entrusted with our country's most valuable resource, our children. These students are our future, and it is imperative that they receive the most rigorous, well-rounded education that the Northeast Independent School District has to offer. And whereas principals are facing many challenges never encountered in previous decades. Consequently, principals are expected to wear many hats: educational leaders, disciplinarians, confidant, safety advisor, budget analyst, change agent, community builder, visionary, and many more. Each day, our principals set the educational culture of their schools while collaboratively planning with their staff. Mission statements are crafted, objectives set, and standards maintained as they guide their educational institutions to higher levels of performance. And whereas the National Association of Elementary School Principals and the National Association of Secondary School Principals, joined by their state affiliates, the Texas Elementary Principals and Supervisors Association and the Texas Association of Secondary School Principals, have designated the month of October as a time to recognize the contribution of all school principals. And whereas we encourage all stakeholders in the Northeast Independent School District to recognize the important role principals fulfill in ensuring that every child is provided the best 360-degree education possible. So we are asking the Board of Trustees of the Northeast Independent School District to hereby proclaim October 2019 as Principals Month. Do you approve this resolution?
Thank you, Ms. Jensen. Do I have a motion to approve the resolution?
So moved.
Thank you, Mrs. Winkley. Do I have a second?
Second.
Is there any discussion? Seeing none, do I have all those in favor say aye? Aye. Opposed, the motion carries. Thank you.
Thank you.
And are there any principals here? I don't see anybody.
He left.
Mr.
Oh, Mr. Ford.
Mr. Ford's back there.
Thank you. So you get the standing ovation.
That's
for
Thank you, Glenn, for all the principals. I'm sure they're very
Pass the
happy you're
word.
getting that, and he'll take that back to all of them, I know.
Well, I did attend the principals' meeting, and Dr. Micah had told them that they did not have to come get their cookie tonight. And I was there and addressed them and told them thank you for everything they do.
Very appreciative.
So, anyway, thank you. Item 2, possible action regarding National School Lunch Week. Mr. Clary.
Madam President, members of the board, Dr. Micah, executive staff, and guests, I was going to invite Ms. Glosson to the podium, but she is already there to address this item.
I'm just trying to do my part to keep this moving along.
You know how I am, right?
Yes, yes. So thank you for the opportunity tonight to present the resolution that you have already been able to read, proclaiming October 14th through the 18th as National School Lunch Week. We're very excited. I see Ms. Huey already has her t-shirt out, and we are thrilled to have those of you that are able to come to Walsham Elementary School tomorrow and help serve lunch. If you choose to wear your provided t-shirt, you will be able to match our lovely staff at Walsham Elementary. And they are only a portion of the over 650 school nutrition employees that we have in our campuses that serve around 12,000 breakfasts and over 40,000 lunches every day, as well as supper to a great portion of our students. And so with your approval, we would love to proclaim this week as National School Lunch Week.
Do I have a motion to approve this week as National School Lunch Week?
So move.
Thank you, Mr. Byer. Second, Mr. Hasso. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, the motion carries. So do you have hats for us tomorrow, or?
Yes, ma'am.
Do we have our chef
Although I
hats?
believe Mr. Hines has some special hats from Walsham Elementary School
Okay.
for you, but we also have backup hats if needed.
All right.
Okay, it's going to be super fun.
I can't
And
wait.
yes, we're wearing our
favorite.
shirts.
So we're wearing these shirts? is
Dr.
that-
Micah.
I'm going to wear my shirt.
So we're wearing these shirts, is that the deal?
I'm sorry.
Okay.
A hat big enough for Mr. Clary, is that what you said?
Well, Mr. Villarreal is serving, and today we noticed he doesn't need a hairnet any longer.
And I will say the
Mr.
theme,
Jarrett.
the theme for this week is
Need to get him on the schedule.
so the
Bring in
theme-
order.
The theme for the week is Save the Day with a Healthy School Lunch, and so you're also welcome to bring your superhero gear, and the line at Walsham is spectacularly decorated with superheroes. The kids are going to have a blast seeing it tomorrow.
I have a princess crown, does that count?
No. It'll match Mr. Reiniger's hat.
It will, right? All right, thank you so much, and we look forward to seeing you tomorrow. Item 3, possible action regarding National School Bus Safety Week. Mr. Clary.
Madam President, members of the board, Dr. Micah, executive staff, and guests, I would like to invite Mr. Jack DeForest, our Executive Director for Transportation, to the podium to make this presentation.
Good evening, Madam President, board members, Dr. Micah, executive staff, and guests. Proud to stand here before you tonight representing more than 400 members of the Transportation Department, whom are probably all turning out the lights for the night about now, so that when they arrive fresh with sleep, I can greet them in the morning. It is my request that the resolution before you proclaiming October 21 through 25 as National School Bus Safety Week be approved, recognizing that our team is part of 480,000 public school buses in America who travel 4.3 billion miles annually, and that school bus transportation is the safest form of surface transportation, and that the Northeast ISD Transportation Department is committed to safe, reliable, courteous, and efficient school bus service to the 20,000 students we carry twice a day. Request that you would approve this resolution.
Thank you, Mr. DeForest. Do I have a motion to approve the resolution?
So moved.
Thank you, Mrs. Winkley. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Mr. Hasso. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The motion carries, and we're going to come drive a bus soon, right?
Yes, we're scrubbing the calendar now. Dr. Micah beat you, though, today.
I heard that, and so you know how I feel about that, right?
He only drove about 50 feet.
Okay. Well,
We'll let you go much further in the bus.
Air Grona will go
He did
farther
run.
and faster.
Yes. Thank you, thank you.
You know, I'm just glad that we didn't have this on our agenda. My son sent me this earlier, that today is National Transfer Money to Your Son Day. And so.
Well,
that
there might
was-
be a resolution out there somewhere.
No.
All right. Item B, instruction and campus administration. 1, possible action regarding request for an exception to the bilingual education program. Dr. Newman.
Thank you, President Grona, members of the board, Dr. Micah, executive staff, and guests. I would like to ask Ms. Alicia Alvarez Calderon to once again approach the podium to address this item. She will also remain up there to address the following item as well.
Good evening, Madam President, board members, Dr. Micah, executive staff, and guests. Districts are required to service our students through either a bilingual or an ESL program. And when a district has an enrollment of 20 students or more in one grade level of the same language background, we are required to provide bilingual services. So at Northeast, we have met the criteria not only for the Spanish, which we already offer, but also for an English, Vietnamese, and English, Arabic bilingual program. However, at this time, we're not unable to offer these programs, and as a result, we need to request for an exception to these bilingual programs by November 1st. So we stand here and recommend that the Board of Trustees approve the submission of the request for an exception to the bilingual program as presented.
Does anybody have any questions?
I do have a question. How are they instructed if there's not a program?
Through an ESL program.
Through an ESL program. And
Right.
who is instructing? Do we have a teacher that speaks Vietnamese and Arabic?
No, we don't.
We don't. So
No, we
how
don't.
is that, I'm just curious as to how that's
Sure.
happening.
So if you recall, the bilingual program
Yes.
has to use a native language for instruction. And so, in a dual language program, we do 90%, in this case would be Vietnamese or Arabic, and then 10% of English. Since we don't have the teachers, and there's several reasons, but one of them is because we don't have the teachers, the kids go into an ESL program. So they go into an ESL content base at the elementary level. Another reason why we cannot provide the program is because they're all over the district. If you see one of the attachments, you can see that they're all over the place. And so,
Yes, no,
Yeah.
I did review that, but my question is.
The services.
So they're in an ESL class where they're speaking Spanish.
No, they're
as-
speaking English.
English.
ESL is all English instruction.
So they're just mainstream. They're.
Yes
and
and
how
yes
are
and
you
no.
not mainstream if there's-
ESL teachers have the tools and I mean they get their certification to be able to teach second language learners with the appropriate strategies and linguistic accommodations, so the kids can be learning in English and at
Not
the same time learning
necessarily
the content.
designed to a specific language, but
Correct.
just languages in
Correct.
general.
You have
Gotcha.
to keep in mind that we have over 60 languages in the district,
Yes.
spoken in the district.
I met a young man that spoke Russian last week.
Yeah.
Yes.
Mhm. Yes.
Are the Vietnamese, or is the Vietnamese language and the Arabic language, is that a trend we're seeing increase?
Yes, so those are the next, and it's the state also. Those are after the Spanish language, Vietnamese is next and Arabic is next. So we're like pretty much up to par with the state. The only one that we have that's higher than the state in terms of percentages is Korean. Now, we haven't reached the point where we need to apply for an exception for Korean, but.
Is that something we're looking at, or obviously keeping an eye on as far as future needs and staff or personnel that can help with those languages?
We collaborate with Human Resources in terms of recruiting teachers, and we go out there with them to job fairs. And in all these years, I've been here for 7 years, but I've been doing this for longer than that, and I haven't found either a Vietnamese or an Arabic teacher here in San Antonio. So yes, we
Yeah,
we
and
have an
David,
eye,
to
but-
answer your question, I mean, our population is changing in the Northeast Independent School District, so that's something we always have to keep and be mindful of. And then as these trends continue, we may have to adjust our practice. At this point, we can't, But in the future, absolutely, that may be something we have to do.
Gotcha. Thank you.
Any other questions? Do I have a motion to approve the submission of the request for an exception to the bilingual program as presented?
So moved.
Thank you, Mr. Byer. Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Mrs. Williams. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, the motion carries. Item B, possible action regarding request for English as a second language ESL program waiver. Ms. Calderon.
So, in this case, for the ESL program, we have to have the appropriately certified teachers, right, at each grade level in the different schools. And so when we have teachers that come to us without an ESL certification, we do have to ask for a waiver so that we can place English learners in those classrooms and provide the support to those teachers, but request for that waiver. And so we have several teachers that will be completing their certification requirements during this school year. Are in the list actually is not set and done yet because campuses have until the end of the month to continue to turn in those names. And we provide support in terms of training, in terms of coaching from our specialists for those teachers. Also, we recommend to the Board of Trustees to approve the submission of the request for waiver for the English as a second language program as presented.
So they have until May or June of next?
No. For the teachers, yes. They have until the beginning of next school year.
To get that certification?
Yes.
Any other questions? I had a couple of questions, and I'm sorry I was being distracted. There are 2 teachers at the bottom of the list that are high school teachers that have 0 in the column for the number of ELs.
Correct.
So is that because you're anticipating that? I'm not curious why they're on the, if they don't already have a student.
Yes, basically, what's happening is that the principals are the ones that are submitting the names, and so they look at them, they say, well, you know, because of our trend of growing of Ls, they want to get kind of like ahead of the game. But we are in conversations also with both principals to make sure that that's what they want to do, because if we take them off the list, right, they can still pursue their ESL certification. Right.
I mean, it's better for us to do the waiver.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. Okay. All right. Do I have a motion to approve the submission of the request for waiver for the
Sorry.
English?
I did have one
Oh, I'm
question
sorry.
real quick. At Oak Grove, we have 55.
Yeah, no, that was a mistake. So
Okay.
it's only 5 students. The thing is, we do a
Okay.
Google document, and so
Gotcha.
they input, and they probably hit the 5 twice,
Okay.
and that's
I
why we
thought-
had that 55 in there. Yes.
I thought that was an extraordinary amount
Yeah.
of
No.
students
It's a
for
fine.
one person
Sorry about
to.
that.
It's a lot. Anyway, that's all I have.
They're working very hard.
Okay. Anybody else? Do I have a motion to approve the submission of the request for waiver for the English as a second language program as presented?
So moved.
Thank you, Mrs. Winkley. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Mr. Hasso. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, the motion carries. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Item C, Business Services. 1, possible action regarding resolution indicative of the Board of Trustees' annual review of investment program. Mr. Villarreal.
Yes, Madam President, members of the board, Dr. Mike, executive staff, and guest, Brian Moy is at the podium to discuss our annual investment report.
Good evening, Madam President, members of the board, Dr. Mike, executive staff, and guests. We come to you every October with our annual investment report. By law, by Government Code 2256, you are required to adopt a resolution basically saying, yes, we've read this report, we're okay with your internal control structure, your strategies, and the local policy, which is CDA local. This is a conflict between government code and education code, because if we were recommending changes to policy, we really couldn't do that because it requires 2 readings. So we will really, in this process, we will never bring you changes to CDA local. We'll always do that through the multiple reading process. So that's just kind of a rubber stamp that the existing policy as of today is where we're leading. You'll notice that the annual investment report looks very much like the quarterly investment reports, where we're also certifying to you that we have met, as far as we know, every one of the 10 major compliance areas. And if I didn't think we had, Shannon would be up here doing the presentation instead of me. And so we're just looking to move forward with our same strategies, and we'll take any questions you have.
Any questions from Mr. Moore? Seeing none, do I have a motion to approve the attached resolution for the investment program?
So moved.
Thank you, Mrs. Williams. Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Mrs. Winkley. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, the motion carries. Item D, consent. 1, instruction and campus administration. A, School Health Advisory Council member appointments. B, School Health Advisory Council annual report. 2, business services. A, resolution approving sources of instruction relating to investment responsibilities. B, broker-dealer authorization. C, waiver of penalties and interest. D, 403B plan restatement. E, 50,000 purchases. 3, operations. A, 2016 hail damage program year 3 bid package 1, priority 3, roof repair and replacement project, 3 campuses, bid authorization approval. B, 2016 hail damage program year 3 bid package 2, priority 3, roof repair and replacement project, 4 campuses, bid authorization approval. C, 2016 hail damage program year 3 bid package 3, priority 3, roof repair and replacement project, 3 campuses, bid authorization approval. D, professional services contracts, construction contracts, and related contract amendments supporting the 2015 bond design and construction requirements. 4, minutes from June 2019. 5, end of consent. Do I have a board member wishing to pull an item from consent?
I do.
Okay.
The professional services contracts, constructions, and related contract amendments supporting 2015 bond design and construction requirements.
So that's item 3D. Okay. Anybody else? So do I have a motion to approve consent without item 3D?
So moved.
Thank you, Mr. Hasso. Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Dwyer. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, the motion carries. Okay, Ms. Winkley.
I have a quick question, and I think it can be easily answered, but I wanted to know the replacement. It looks like Hidden Forest, hang on a second. Okay, the install 3 additional pedestrian gates with access control, is that based on the new construction that was done? Or was that part of the, was that already intended? The 3 additional gates?
Ms. Winkley? To address your question, after we completed the high school fencing project, we went back to each campus and said, have we satisfied all of your needs? And the principals, if they felt there needed to be some additional improvements installed, had the option to ask for other gates, card readers, and so forth. So the Churchill principal asked for 3 additional access gates.
Perfect.
Which we're adding.
Did you say Churchill or Hidden Forest?
Churchill.
Oh,
I'm sorry, but it was Churchill.
But you can
Yeah.
see Gary following.
Gary knew
Sorry, thank
exactly
you.
what she was talking
Thank
about.
That's the only one with 3 gates. in Churchill.
Yeah. Sorry. Yes.
No, it's because you're
Churchill.
Gary and you're awesome. Good job. Okay, so. are
Thank you. That was my question. I wondered where they came from and why. Okay, that's it.
Okay, so would you like to make a motion to approve item 3D?
Yes. I make a motion to approve item 3D.
Do I have a second? Thank you, Mr. Hasso. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, the motion carries. Item 11, reports. A, financial statement review of expenditures, that's been provided for you. B, awarded bid report, that's been provided for you. Item 12, matters from the floor. The trustees welcome comments from members of the public during this time of the meeting. Generally, board members do not respond to public comments during the meeting, although members may request further information or a future agenda item on a matter raised during public comment. As explained fully in the board's written procedures for this time, the matters from the floor portion is a limited public forum. Accordingly, speakers may present on a topic related to district business for up to 3 minutes, but are not permitted to make 1, personal complaints about an individual staff or board member that should be raised using the district's grievance policies, 2, a personnel action, 3, a student disciplinary matter, 4, a complaint about a particular student, 5, or pending litigation. Any person who persists in speaking on these topics after being directed not to do so will lose the remainder of their time to speak and may lose their privilege of addressing the board at future meetings. We also welcome written comments at any time, either through email at board@neisd.net or by mail, care of the superintendent's office at 8961 Tesoro Drive, 6th floor, San Antonio, Texas 78217. Ms. Huey.
Patsy Esterline.
Good evening, Madam President, board members, Dr. Micah, executive staff, and guests. My name is Patsy Esterline, 6800 Park 10 Boulevard, Suite 123 North, and I'm representing Northeast AFT. First, let me say congratulations to Dr. Micah from going from interim superintendent to permanent superintendent, so congratulations. Each year, the state scores our campuses based off of standardized scores. While AFT does not agree that this system of assigned letter grades to campuses measures a campus or defines a student, it is nevertheless the system we have to live under for now. However, if the state leaders believe such a system is meaningful, then they too should strive to excel when it comes to receiving letter grades. Recently, Education Week released its 2019 Quality Counts rankings of states. Sad to say that Texas ranked 41st out of 50 states in the District of Columbia in terms of an overall educational opportunities and performance measure. Its overall grade was a C-, hardly what one would expect of Governor Abbott, Lieutenant Governor Patrick, and Education Commissioner Morath following their criticisms of districts with similar scores. In the 3 categories measured, Texas received a C- in the K through 12 achievement, a D+ in school finance, and a C in the chance for success category. What this truly reflects is the growing number of low-income students and the refusal of the state to meet their needs by appropriating enough money to get the job done. The state leaders are not getting the job done. Thank you.
Okay. Item 13, discussion and possible action regarding board members' requests for items to be placed on a future agenda and our request for reports from the administration. Does anyone have an item for that? Seeing none, item 14, adjournment, and the time is 8:20. Thank you all for being here, and welcome again, Mr. Garrett.